This is the most wonderful time of the year. I'm disappointed that we can't be together in this wonderful series of events to celebrate what was accomplished during this week in Jesus laying his life down for the sins of the world. On Sunday, we celebrated the triumphal entry of Jesus, and he's riding humbly upon a donkey into Jerusalem, and the crowds are there and they're hailing him and praising him. But it wouldn't take long for all of that to erode, to deteriorate away. And so we arrived on Thursday, and pressure is building, and there's a scheme of which to arrest him. He's with his disciples. He's sharing together in the Jewish Passover, in that Last Supper, at which he institutes a new covenant. And so there he's with his disciples. He goes to Gethsemane. They pray. Jesus is in agony. He's sweating drops of blood because he knows what's about to happen. He's not so much, the bitter cup was not so much the agony of the physical pain that he's about to endure, but the fact that he was bearing the sin of the world, and he was confronted with the wrath of God. And so he's experiencing every sin for every person that's ever been committed. And he's taking that upon himself. And soon he would face it there in his death upon the cross. On Friday, the trial, he's sentenced to the cross, the execution. They take him to the cross. They nail him to the cross. They're mocking him. They don't believe he's who he's claimed to be. And Jesus, the last words he says, cries out, "It is finished." Now, those that were with him thought that he was talking about his physical death, that his life was over. And the disciples probably thought to himself, he's not who we thought he declared himself to be. And so their hopes are dashed. But when Jesus cries, "It's finished," the Bible says that the veil in the temple was ripped from top to bottom, signifying that God had come down. And that barrier that separated man from the Holy of Holies had been ripped apart, and now whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord can be and will be saved. Now on Sunday, 3 days later, we find nobody was expecting what Jesus had told them repeatedly, that he would die and that he would rise again. Nobody was there. The only ones that were there in the morning were the women, and they were approaching there with the embalming fluids. Really, there was no expectation that Jesus was going to rise again. But early in the morning, the earth shook, and Jesus came up from the grave, and he demonstrated his power over death, hell, and the grave. And he paid the penalty for your sin and my sin, the curse that was upon us. He broke it, and he's redeemed us. He's justified us. He's sanctified us, and he's paved a way for us to go to heaven forever. What an amazing thing that Jesus has done. It has been so well said in this poem that was written in 1920, which says, he was born in an obscure village, the son of a peasant woman. He grew up in another obscure village where he worked in a carpenter's shop until he was 30. He never wrote a book. He never held an office. He never went to college. He never visited a big city and never traveled more than 200 miles from the place where he was born. He did none of the things usually associated with greatness. He had no credentials but himself. He was only 30 years of age when his friends ran away. One of them denied him. He was turned over to his enemies, and he went through the mockery of a trial. He was nailed to a cross between two thieves, and while dying, his executioners gambled for his clothing, the only property he had on earth. When he was dead, he was laid in a borrowed grave through the pity of a friend. 1900 centuries have come and gone, and today Jesus is the central figure of the human race and the leader of mankind's progress. All the armies that have ever marched, all the navies that have ever sailed, and all the parliaments that have ever sat, all the kings that have ever reigned put together have not affected the life of mankind on earth as powerfully as that one solitary life. I want to encourage you to devote extra time in these next few days to consider what Jesus paid with his life, and what you and I, we are the recipients of the greatest love gift that's ever been given to mankind. May God bless you as you celebrate the birth, the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ.